I'm going to teach you how to master COTA on F124, going through a full lap guide to start with, and then going to a hot lap, full pace lap at the end of the video to show you all of the details that I've talked about in a full speed example. But getting into the initial lap here on COTA on F124, before even starting the lap, it's critical to be opening up the track as much as possible and then getting all the way on the outside of the AstroTurf here on the final corner to be opening up the lap, opening a DRS, and you'll be flying down into turn 1. The reason it's critical to open up the track as much as possible is it will allow you better opportunity to carry speed on to the pit straight. Now you're on the pit straight, you'll be going down to maximum velocity into turn 1, and the black box on the right hand side is going to be your braking reference marker, and you'll be going down into third gear. This is a completely blind apex, really difficult to master, so I try to turn in and imagine the apex, and I always try to hit the yellow parts of the curbing on this year's game. If I do run slightly wide though, I do opt to be running just around the outside of the red and white part of the curbstone. Both produce basically the lap time from the same lap time for my testing, so it's really about driver preference, but I like to aim for the yellow curbstone quite simply because if I do run slightly wide, then I'm still on a really good racing line anyway, and this allows me a great opportunity to carry good minimum speed throughout the apex. Speaking now into turn 2, easily flat out, choose the path of the least distance, and that will give you the best lap time throughout there. Now the first sector is completely flat out from this point onwards, so you're going to need a bit of commitment, a bit of bravery to keep the throttle completely pinned, and a bit of car control to go with that as well. You're going to be using up as much track as possible, as the curbing on this year's game and this year's track is very forgiving, very soft, so you can run over the curbstones as much as you like basically, and the car will not be unsettled. All it is about is keeping your car slightly within the track limits, and that is the optimal way to go for the first sector here in COTA. So again, like I say, easily flat out, and now you're going to be through the right-hander and keeping the car to the right, and you're just going to be optimally setting up the car from now the end of sector 1, the start of sector 2, and your car is going to be placed all the way to the right hand side of the track, and this is going to be opening up the corner as much as possible for what's a really critical complex. Black box on the top right hand side of your screen is going to be your little dab of the brake and lift of the throttle reference marker. You can just lift the throttle if you're confident enough, and that is the fastest way that I found going through this corner anyway. You're going to be using up as much curbing on the inside as possible, right up against the white line, to get the car as far to the left for the right-hander and the left-hander starting sector 2. So now you're going to be using as much of the red as possible and opening up the apex as much as your car grip will allow. You can see I go over the inside curbstones here, and I'm basically pointing my car to the left-hander and trying to get my car as straight as possible, as this right-hander is all about compromising for the left-hander. The left-hander is where you go over the crest of the hill, you start running with a decent mini straight, to be honest, down to the hairpin. So it's a good opportunity to close into people for the DRS in a race. It's a good opportunity to make up time in qualifying, so it's all about this left-hander and compromising the right. Through the left-hander though, it's all about just getting as much track width as possible and going right up to the white line, and now using up as much track on the exit as well. And you can see through the left-hander, minimal distance, just going right up to the white line. There's not really a braking reference marker down in turn 1, to be honest. Turn 1? I think this is turn 9, my apologies. There's not really a braking reference marker down in turn 9 here in COTA, so you have to imagine basically a 75-meter board between the 50 and the 100, and by doing that, it's my optimal place to be braking, and you can kind of use the crest of the road or just before you get to these markings on the road as well as your good reference marker. That being said, like I say, to give you sort of a picture of where I would be braking, I would be braking around here, like I say, just halfway between the 100 and the 50. There is not really a strong marker board here. The only thing that can be, let's say, decent marker board is going to be these black lines on the track as well, for where people have been skidding and sliding their tires. With that being said though, going down into the hairpin, because the exit here is so critical, I actually like to go around the curbstones here and only just graze the red and white part of the curbings, optimally only going up to the white line in third gear and using up as much road on the exit as possible, because the AstroTurf has a decent amount of grip, and just opening up the steering wheel a bit earlier can allow me a bit of a better exit onto this back straight, opening up DRS, flying down into 200 miles an hour, and I'll be moving the brake bias to 56% before approaching this sector. You'll be braking about 120, 110 meters before the corner, and this is really because your clipping point is actually much earlier than the white line and the apex suggest. So you can brake at the 100-meter board, but you'll run slightly wide from your clipping point if you do so. So what you want to achieve on this corner is to be using up as much of the track as possible and quite literally grazing over the white line, and this is the fastest way around this corner. And this is why you have to brake at the 110, 120 meter board, is just to allow your car a little bit more width and distance and capability and grip to getting to the apex stones as well. If you brake at the 100 meter board, it's optimal for reaching this part of the apex, but as you can see from the off-board shot, it's basically wasting half a car width of track distance, to be honest, and that also makes the exit of the corner way more tighter as well. You're going to be using them as much track as possible right up to the white line, using up all the AstroTurf as well before you bring the car hard back over to the left hand side, and it's critical to be parallel with this white line starting sector 3. That again is not really a reference for starting sector 3, and this is really just going to be down to driver feel, but to be honest, the braking point for this corner is not really that important. What is important is you carry good minimum speed and keep the rear of the car stable to look after the rear tire temps on the exit as well. So now you have a choice between third and fourth gear, and if you take third gear, the car will be slightly more unsettled in the mid part of the corner, where if you take fourth gear, the car will be more settled in the middle part of the corner. Both have their positives and both have their negative. If you've got a car that's very oversteery, then I'd probably recommend staying in fourth gear to keep a bit more stability in the car, whereas if you have a car that's quite understeery, then you'll be going down into third gear to get that a little bit more bite and a bit more rotation from the front axle. Going out almost to the outside of the track, you don't really want to use up all the track, to be honest, here on the exit, because what is more important is to get back to the shortest distance and the optimal straight line between these curves in a sector 3. Well, it's a very enjoyable sector in my opinion. So what's really important here is to get your car really close, if not on, to this red and white part of the curbing, and instantly go full throttle here as soon as you can, keeping the car in a straight line until you reach full throttle, and once you go full throttle, bringing the car over to the right hand side and now braking for this very difficult technical left-hander, what is completely blind at this point. So what I do recommend is when your car becomes basically parallel and you start aiming towards this ending of the curving stones on the right hand side. So again, there's not really a real braking reference. A lot of this corner is by feel and by just intuition and what you're going to be trying to do, but the great thing is there's a lot of different racing lines available on this corner, so you're able to do many different approaches. The approach that I recommend for you at home today is to be pointing your car to the outside curbstone here and basically turning in when you get to the outside curve to finish, and this allows you a very nice gradual transition into the apex and allows you a very nice racing line as well. On the exit, using as much road as possible, even on to the AstroTurf. Again, it might feel a bit unnatural, but it is just, there's just grip out there, and you can use it easily fell out through the right-handers to be finishing off sector 3, and now into the final 2 corners. You want to be using only 2 wheels on the outside curbing, going a little bit more. For me, it seems to bottom out the car a little bit on the curbstones and can make a little bit of inconsistency, while it's a corner that I'm looking all for consistency, to be honest, to have the confidence to throw the car in. Going into the apex, you want to be using them as much curb as possible, quite simply because this game allows it, and going right up to the white line as well, and this is going to be the optimal way to go out through this corner, in my testing at least, and using up as much road on the exit as well. So now going down into the final corner, you're going to be braking basically where the white line is or where the black board is on the right hand side, and this is going to be your braking reference marker. You're going to be using all the way on the right hand side, even with the AstroTurf, and what's really key here is the AstroTurf is completely flat. But if you put your outside tyres on the curbing stone, as you can see here now, the car starts bouncing around quite a lot. So what you want to be doing is order your braking, or the majority in your braking zone, on the AstroTurf where the car is flat, is stable, is having a consistent grip level basis, and then as late as possible turning over that AstroTurf and getting as much inside curb as possible. The car will generally understeer here as it's very difficult. The track goes uphill, so the car is losing its ability to have a stable grip basis, so you're going to end up with quite a little bit of understeer on the initial entry as you're coming over the AstroTurf, and then once you get to the apex you're going to have quite a lot of grip, to be honest, because the car is going uphill and the front tires are generating a lot of friction by going up the uphill, but as you get over the crest the car will unload itself, and then you're going to start getting a little bit of understeer if you're not careful. So predict that in advance and you'll have a very successful corner, and just try to make sure that you don't understeer too much on the exit, and this can really push you wide as you're going to be using up as much road as possible on the exit and opening up DRS up to the start finish line. Now we're going to go for a full halt speed lap here on COTA to show you everything in the detail, and now you can see before starting the lap, opening up the corner as much as possible in third gear. Now as well, use the AstroTurf on the exit, up into sixth, moving the brake bars forward for turn 1 in 8th gear, black box on the right hand side, down into third gear. You can see just letting the car rotate and jumping over that inside curbstone as well, I should say. Now into sector 1 with 7th gear, flat again, flat out, downshift to 6th, keep the car to the right hand side, little lift down to 5th, and now down to 4th as well, looking to set up the exit as much as possible. Almost flat out through the left hand, just a little lift of confidence throughout the left. Now 75 meter board, roughly, imagine where it is, down into third gear and let the car rotate. Took a little bit too much curbing on the inside there, but still was able to get a good exit. This year's game is very forgiving with the curbstones, so you can take them in the majority of all cases if you need to get out of jail free card. Now you can see moving the brake bars back, 110 meter zone, get that rotation, use up all the curbing on the inside, lovely. In 4th gear, downshift to 3rd as I can feel a bit of rotation was needed. Now get the car as straight as possible for the exit. 5th gear, turn in when the curb ends on the left hand side, missed the apex a little bit there, but you can still see what I was going for with my example. Just got a little bit of front locking and that pushed me wide. Now through the left hand, they're down 2 gears, using up as much curbstone as possible on the inside. Now into the final apex, black box on the right hand side, down into 3rd gear, let the car rotate beautifully, and this is a hot lap here in COTA. Of course, not perfect, not the best flying lap in the world, because we are literally just jumping in and showing you while doing live commentary, but I really think this is the best way to give you an example, to teach you, to show you what's happening with the track, and do my best to educate you and teach you as well. So with that being said, I'm going to show you the setup that is being used currently on time trial, and this is going to be from Body Boliment with the 50, 42, 85, 50, 100, left, 41, 8, 21, 21, 23, 55, 100, and 56. So you can see like the 56, 57 is going to be the difference, and maximum tire pressure. So far on this year's game, to be honest, the time trial setups are actually really fast. It's probably one of the first times I've seen it be this fast, to be honest. Normally the time trial setups are lacking a little bit, but this year the time trial setups are actually really quick, and to make them ready for a racing situation, I probably recommend just putting a little bit more off-throttle differential, a little bit more rear suspension stiffness to bring a bit more stability in the high-speed corners. But apart from that, to be honest, the setups are pretty good. Of course, not perfect, but as a baseline, they're pretty good, to be honest. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I've been Brendon Leigh, and I'll catch you in the next video. Grazie, ciao, ciao, bye bye.